Mythical Pokemon, the main thing that stops most people from completing their Living Dex. Luckily I've collected each Pokemon event as they came out throughout the years, but there were two that I missed out on, Hoopa and Deoxys. Hello, my name is Splutter and today I'm finally going to redeem that Deoxys in Gen 3. Before I get on to Deoxys, I wanted to quickly talk about Hoopa for a moment. During the run of XY games, I did collect every single code card and redeemed every mythical that they had, but there was one that kind of escaped me. Hoopa. It's not that I didn't have the code card, I did, but life just got in the way and I never redeemed it. I never took the 2 minutes out of my day to redeem it, so now I've just got a code card and no Hoopa. Luckily for the XY events, they're half preserved by injecting them, and that's really the only route that you can go. And with all of the DS games, you can just do the DNS exploit to relive any event that you wanted. It is sort of skirting around the rules, but if there's no way to actually get that Pokemon and it's not really doing anything other than just giving you that event, it's not affecting the stats or the moveset or anything else about the Pokemon, then it might be the only way to do it. And now Deoxys, a long lost event that was originally given out in Gen 3 by providing everyone with an Aurora ticket to reach Birth Island and catch Deoxys for yourself. Though impossible to currently reach Birth Island in a stock game, you can do a few things to trigger it. By having 2 GBAs, one of them with a flashcard that has the event ROM on it, you can send the Aurora ticket over that way. Another method, which was the one that I did, which is slightly more complicated, is to dump the ROM, open up an event ROM, open up your ROM, and then transfer the event over, save your game, and then put it back on the cartridge. It's jumping through a few more hoops, but it was the easiest way that I could do it, and now my game is back on the cart, and the only time that it touched my computer was to get the event and to back up my saves. And yes, I could get Deoxys from Fire Red and Leaf Green, but I wanted it to say that he came from Hoenn. Deoxys is a Hoenn Pokemon, and in my Living Dex, they all come from their origin regions. It just made sense that Deoxys needed to come from Hoenn. Yes, I could have gotten him from Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. In fact, I did have one in my Living Dex for that purpose, but it didn't feel as authentic as having an original Gen 3 event, an event that I've never played and that I did want to play, so why not have both? Now I have my Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire Deoxys, and I also have my Gen 3 Deoxys. But it wasn't that easy. I wanted all the forms of Deoxys. There are multiple ways that I could have gotten around this, but the thing that I did was probably the most convoluted. The first thing that I did was back up my save as it was before I did anything to the game. And then after putting the Aurora ticket in, I prepped my game ready to fight Deoxys. That was a little bit of an issue since I transferred all of my Pokemon to the Switch, so I didn't have a team to play with on the games. The best that I could use was the mid-level Ditto. At least in Emerald, Deoxys is level 30. After that, I arrived at Birth Islands, did the Deoxys puzzle, which took me a little bit to figure out. It was my first time doing the puzzle, and I hadn't really seen anyone solve it before. But when Deoxys was ready with that last A click, I saved my game in front of Deoxys, and then backed up my save file at that point as well. After that, I went ahead and caught Deoxys. 7 times. Of course I wanted my Deoxys in a repeat ball, the Pokeball that I think matches it the best, and I wanted multiple versions of that Deoxys. Yes, I could have just cloned Deoxys, but I didn't want a clone of Deoxys. I wanted a unique Deoxys for every single form. So that's what I did. After a few failed battles, I caught Deoxys in a repeat ball. I then transferred him to Pokemon Box, which was the easiest way that I could trade currently in Gen 3. I have no idea where my link cable is. I then placed my cart back into the cart dumper, restored my save file from just before I got Deoxys, and repeat. I did make sure that all of my Deoxys were a different stat spread, a different nature, and everything to make sure that they were different Pokemon. Technically, yes, they were caught from the same game, from the same trainer ID and everything, but they are differently unique Deoxys, which is kind of the best that I could do without buying multiple copies of Emerald. I then started the transfer process by sending all of the Deoxys to Pal Park in Pokemon Platinum, catching them there, taking them for a stroll around Failstone to change all of their forms, and then sent them to Pokemon Black through the Poké Transfer Lab. And then after that, they went straight into Pokemon Bank and straight into Pokemon Home. As usual, I gave them all personal nicknames, but I left one of them blank so I could call it Ribonucleic. Named of course after deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. Sadly, the character limit was a little bit too short, so I couldn't name it that in Gen 3, but it was something that I wanted to do in later games. Specifically in Pokemon Sword and Shield, you can get a traded Pokemon and change their nickname once. However, after transferring the Deoxys up, it's not allowed in Sword and Shield. And though Deoxys is allowed in Scarlet and Violet, you can't change other people's Pokemon's names. So there was only one thing left to do. Go back to Emerald and continue the hunt. At that time, I did already hunt another Deoxys, but I caught it in an Ultra Ball just so I would have one on the Gen 3 carts in case I ever wanted it. So once again, I needed to restore the state back to right before I fought Deoxys to catch another Deoxys, to then rename a different name in Gen 3 and then transfer it all the way up. It was a long hassle, and at the end of it, it took about 8 to 9 hours just to get all of these Deoxys. So yeah, it wasn't the easy way out just hacking in a Pokemon. I went as in-depth as I could to make sure that they were all different Pokemon. And that's it. It was a long journey. It took me a while to get all the materials that I needed, mainly the cart dumper, to get everything working, but I finally have multiple Gen 3 Deoxys from their original Hoenn region sitting in my Living Dex, all forms, plus the original Living Dex Pokemon, all my O.T, all nicknamed. And I found a funny little quirk that I didn't notice until I got them into Pokemon Home. I wasn't really checking anything other than that the natures were different, but it turns out that all of my Deoxys have a negative nature in whichever form that they are. It's really strange, but it's something unique, I guess. And that means I'm almost done with Gen 3. The only thing that I have left to do is to get that Mirage Island Wynot, which could take me a little while. Every now and then I might do a hunt for Mirage Island, but it is a big time sink. It's something that I want to do eventually. And as for the remaining general forms, I just have 2 more Shaman and 2 more Zygarde to collect, and then I'm finally done with absolutely everything currently in my Origin game form gender Living Dex one. So in total this took around 8 to 10 hours of preparation, getting everything done, and actually catching the Deoxys, which is really frustrating when you don't have any Pokemon to properly catch it, and when it's not got a good catch rate. But I think it was worth it, and that's all that really matters in the end. And with that, I guess I'm on to the next game to complete my next objective. じゃあ、また来てね。